Welcome to episode 12 of the SNARLcast, about indie war games and their design, coming to you from Snarling Badger Studios. I'm Adam, and I'm here with Vince. How are you doing, Vince?
Hey, I'm doing great today, buddy. I'm very excited to talk about our main topic, where it's going to be very true to life for both of us. The don't make game publishing your job.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to talk about why it's a good side gig and how you can get into it, and how really more people should be into it.
They tell you to talk to like write what you know.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming they probably also tell you to like podcast what you know in that situation. And that's one thing that we know. So we're going to talk about that. So that'll be fun. Let's see. Did you enjoy a long weekend? Did you grill out? Did you blow your hand off or anything like that?
No, nothing like that.
That's good.
Yeah, we are recording this on basically at the end of the weekend of the end of 4th of July weekend here in the States, which is a holiday weekend. And no, I did a lot of work. Like I got a bunch of painting and hobby done. I'll talk about that in a moment. Finished up my Art of book, which was good there. Did a little bit of work on our next game for Snarl. Basically, a weekend off is just like, boy, like it really does fit in to what we're going to talk about today, because all I did all weekend was side gig, right?
Yeah,
like, that's
absolutely.
what it was.
Yeah.
Having an extra day off just meant more time for side gigs. My grill broke last fall, and I just haven't bothered to get a new one yet. So no, I did no grilling. I should go get a new one, but whatever.
We have an old-timey, old-fashioned grill where you put briquettes in it and then you let it on fire, and there's no like gas tank.
Nothing to break.
Yeah, not really. Yeah. Basically, yeah. I mean, unless it like rusts and then falls over, there is that. We did have some folks over actually last night, and it rained pretty much the entire time, so we were all huddled in the garage, which is not that big, and it made grilling difficult. But and then at one point, one of my friends somehow locked the door behind him as he was leaving our house to come outside after using the bathroom. And
I love it.
I didn't have my keys on me because I was at home, so
sure
we had to get creative is what we had to do. So yeah, that's fun too. I mentioning about like working all the time type of thing. It was interesting how many times I noticed during the end of the year with like Christmas and then New Year's, people being like, "Oh, I don't have to go back to the office until the 3rd of January or whatever," and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. I'm in the same boat. I usually take
the
last couple weeks of the year off from my normal job,
which is fine. But then I'm thinking, oh yeah, I'll be working every day, including Christmas, probably.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And you'll be doing the same as well. You just won't be working as many jobs at that same time.
Correct. It's great. Yeah, during that last like couple weeks of the year, or like any holiday weekends for me, really just become like incredibly productive. That's what it is. Like I feel like I get so much done because like I in one day this weekend, like I finished writing the book. I got a bunch of stuff recorded for a future video. I worked on a big project I'm working on in painting. I did a little work on our Snarl fall game for the zine. And I played a game of AOS. That was my fun thing. And at the end of the day, I was like, man, I was very productive today, right? I got a lot done.
Yeah, and I think that's it comes down to, I don't know. And we're getting maybe a little bit ahead of here. It comes down to a mindset thing, and you have to have that. You have to understand that going into it to some degree, depending on what you're trying to get out of it. But speaking of Snarl, which is a thing that we produce, what else is going on with things we produce? So we know what Snarl is, obviously. As far as like what the micro game's going to be for this year when it comes out in November. And right now Vince is kind of working towards getting everything written so that playtesting can start. And I am trying to figure out what we're doing for artwork. Snarl is generally far less artwork than obviously any of our other books, just due to the fact that it's far fewer pages, but also it's just smaller scale. It's a physically smaller book. And people are, if they're going to print it, they're going to print it themselves and everything. So it's it in comparison to the spring game, it's considerably easier for sure.
Yeah. So just so you like, so where we are with that game is, if you go back to our How We Make Our Games episode, Adam and I have spent our time talking back and forth. We've, hashed out like the themes and the guiding principles and the brainstorm ideas around it and the general flow of the game, all that kind of stuff. And so now what I've turned to working on is the primary loop. I do believe you need to get that done first. So I've done largely a lot of that as my focus here to make sure that the core mechanical, let's call it engine of the game runs,
Mm.
right? Like think of the primary loop like if you were going to make like Mario, like Mario, like Super Mario Brothers, like the Mario,
Oh,
the
that you
game.
meant the television cook.
No, like if you think of Mario, the primary loop is run to the right and jump.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so if the running to the right and jumping isn't a smooth experience, right? Or there are like you put in chasms you can't jump across or whatever, stuff like that,
Mhm, mhm.
that's a failure of the primary loop, right? That Mario has a very simple primary loop. Not all
Sure.
games are that simple, but there you go, right?
Yeah.
And so I've working on that and I'm starting to expand out from that a little bit because I think we've largely got that nailed.
Yeah, I think so too. And then otherwise, Rain and Iron. I know I've seen recently. I know someone that you and I both know. Um, Robert. He did a. I can't think of his
Yeah,
last name.
Robert from the Miniatures Paintbrush. Yep,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he
yeah.
did a battle report of it.
Did a battle
Yep,
report.
absolutely.
You can find that on YouTube. So that's cool. And I am currently in the sort of writing things in my iPad type of phase of trying to figure out some little marketing message things that we can slip into our videos and stuff to remind people about the games that we sell and our merch and all that type of thing. Trying to get better at marketing.
Yes,
That's
Adam and I
an
are
important thing.
terrible at marketing. That is the
Yeah, we're
short
not
and
great.
simple answer to it. So,
Yeah,
like,
it's not
that
great.
is, I think we might do an episode in the future, Adam, that's like why we're bad at marketing and how we're thinking about getting better at it. Like, I think we really make it a discussion. I think it'd be a good
Mhm.
episode
Yeah.
because it's not a place where we're like experts or even
No.
producing quality within that space because I come from a product background. So like the design and scheduling and creation of the thing, I've got on lock. You come from like a graphic design and layout and art background and all of that. You've been doing that for many years and you are pro when it comes to that, right? To like laying out a book, picking fonts, you beginning at making everything fit and jive,
Sure.
making the book be readable, organizing everything, all of my insane, sort of screed that I put together, picking and art directing, and just like everything related to that. You
Sure.
are super pro at. The thing is, neither of us have a marketing background.
I have a little bit of one. I mean, and it's just from tangentially working in that area on and off. I mean, technically, we both have a bit of a marketing background in that we've marketed ourselves as YouTubers for a decade,
Sure.
but neither of us has gone to school for it. Neither of us has had
Right.
anything, specifically, there's not anything. I don't want to say real. That's not the right word, but there's nothing. There's no certificates in the background. There's very little in the way of real world in the big business world kind of thing.
That's
So
right. I
there's
mean, like
that. Yeah.
in my company, I have a regular marketing organization and team I work with. They're
Hmm.
all awesome, but
Sure.
they do the marketing stuff. I show up basically the same thing here, right? Like I literally show up and I say, "Here's the product. Here's what it does. Here's
Hmm.
how it works." And they're like, "Okay, cool. Let's build a campaign around." And then they come back with ideas, and I'm like, "Yes on this, no on that, good, bad,
Sure.
so on and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
forth."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not doing the clever one pagers and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I have just written why we're bad at marketing and how we're trying to get better as an idea for a podcast directly into the document that you and I share. So
Fantastic.
you got to when you get an idea. This
Write
is
it
for
down
anything,
immediately.
but definitely for game design and things like that. When you get an idea, write it down
That's right.
immediately. What kind of stuff have you been painting? And well, you said you played a game of VOS. What army were you playing?
Yeah. So I actually got like 3 games yesterday.
Oh,
Okay. So it was that sounds like a lot, but it was fast. 2.5. It's hard to explain. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I played some Slanesh and some Skaven yesterday. It was good. Basically because the new General's Handbooks are like basically the new rules for those who don't follow AOS just came out. Really, I've just been we're focused on getting that new season going. Does that make sense? Like, so it's understanding the rules and stuff like that, so I can talk about it intelligently on Warhammer Weekly. That's really what the goal is.
I mean, it doesn't make sense. I know what you're saying. The fact that there are seasons to a tabletop war game, like a video game. The fact that there are seasons to a video game is a little wackadoo, but I think it's real wackadoo when it is about a tabletop game. So, yeah, it's just it just smells to me like such a money grab. You know what I mean? To be like,
Well,
let's
look,
change stuff every year. That'll anyway.
Look, I get it. The
Yeah,
reality is that some part of it is like people who play a lot, you've got to offer a new play experience if you want people to stay in the ecosystem, right? We're not like that. We don't expect people to make a lifestyle out of our games, but they do.
sure. Yeah.
And so you've got to have new content constantly on offer for people to explore.
Well, they
That's what
do.
it comes down to.
They have new products to buy that are like models and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, my point
sure.
is that the people who are like so invested, they're not going to leave. Where are they going to go? Like that.
They
That's
will
the
get
thing.
bored and drift away. Like it's a thing. Yeah. At the same time, you were like, boy, this we should again. This could be sort of out of our wheelhouse, but this could be a whole episode, right? Of the challenge between releasing content and like the treadmill to keep people on, and the risk of making people fall off because the treadmill goes too fast, and that balancing act.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of folks have seen the treadmill moving too quickly. I did a video some time back about why people are leaving wargaming. Just reasons why. Not like it's uh, wargaming in general seems to be doing pretty well because every time I go to a convention, there are more people at that convention than there were the year
Absolutely.
previously. So there's that. But when people leave, why are they doing it? And I had so many people in the comments who are just like, because I can't keep up with the rules. Like I
Sure.
just, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I get it.
you can choose not to keep up with the models. You'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to buy that model. Like there are people out there who think they need to buy all the models, and that's their own issue. But but when they change the rules as frequently as they do, you're like, well, if I'm going to go play with anybody else who's paying attention, they're going to be like, you're behind on the rules. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. This thing has changed. That thing doesn't do what you think it does anymore. That kind of thing. And yeah, I can definitely see that being an issue. So
No, I mean, look, I literally just had this conversation with the person I was playing with last night. At the end of our games, I was literally, I said, man, it is crazy to think how much this game has changed in 10 years. Like, and we just started recalling like periods of time where the game played like this or like that, or this was a rule or that was a rule. And it was just like, it's so wild how much it's changed. In the 10 years between 2015 and 2025,
because the anniversary just happened, right?
Just happened. Yeah, exactly. In that 10-year period, it has changed so much and repeatedly, sometimes every 6 months, sometimes every year, sometimes multiple big times a year. Like there's been so much change.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look across the aisle over at like D&D and Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Yeah.
And in 10 years, the game basically changed not at all. 2014 and 2024, it was just 5th edition. That was the game. That was it. Now they released like an updated version last year, but it was just okay. It really felt like just a slightly polished version of the existing game.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't really dramatically change the game in any way.
Yeah.
So at any rate, it is wild. Like sort of there's two very different models there, to be sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I didn't play anything this weekend. I had other things going on. I did get some building done. I got some 3D printed models my friend Dave printed for me, and they were very modular. So it was like heads and then torsos and then arms and hands and legs and all kinds of stuff like that. And they got
it's a little old school type of thing.
Yeah, so you can mix and match and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And so I started by saying, okay, what's my initial target for this? Like, what game am I going to probably play? And of course, it's Space Station Zero, because that's usually where I start when I'm just going to build like a cool skirmish kind of thing. Sometimes I'd also go Grimdark Future Firefight. Like
Sure.
if I'm going to be playing, let's say Trench Crusade, well then I'm using Trench Crusade models. But I'm just like I want to make a weird group of people, it's usually Space Weirdos, maybe Grimdark Future Firefight. But I start by going, all right, well, like I know what the pieces are, like specifically in this situation because it's like an X amount, it's a finite number of pieces that come in this file, different STLs. So I know I don't have any sniper rifles. I don't have any like, laser whips, or whatever stuff like that.
Sure,
But I
sure,
know I've
sure.
got this and this and this and this, and what can I build from it? And then I sent Dave, instructions on and the files, and then he dropped them off. And so then today, actually earlier today, I glued them together. So I've got 5 guys, and I've got them on bases, and I'm texturing their bases. I'm like halfway done, so I hope to be able to prime them tomorrow, and then go from there. So that's it. Otherwise, I've been continuing to work on Robot Legion's army. I'm actually building an army. Well, again,
You're
not
getting close. I know it's 1,000 points. It's an army. It's
it's a
fine. It's an
thousand
army for that
points.
game.
Yeah, for that game. But I'm also not building it though, too. That's like I'm gonna make a video at some point talking about like, oh my god, I built an army. Except that I didn't. I just glued them to bases and then put texture on because they're 3D printed.
Because they're
Which
3D printed.
oh god,
Such a game changer.
oh,
We've
it
talked about
totally
it so
is.
many times, but it's a
Yeah.
complete game changer.
Like literally those Robot Legion warriors, I was looking at them on my desk and I'm like, if those guys were built by GW, each one of them would probably be 20 pieces.
You're
And
right.
I'm just like, ugh, like the heads would be 3 pieces. There's nothing there. So yeah, that's where that's at right now. And I've been fine with it. I do have what's the newest thing that they sent me? They sent me those weird goofy looking Warhammer Underworlds guys. With the faces?
Oh, the funny faces?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I was like looking at them, and I watched another video. I think it was
Louise did a
Curios.
video about fixing them.
Yeah, I didn't see hers. I saw Curios' video where he was just like, I don't understand why I don't like them, but I certainly don't. And I was like, yeah, I understand. And I was actually very surprised too on how kind of simple the paint schemes were.
Sure.
And
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
that
yeah.
was kind of interesting because it's just I don't know. I don't know. It seemed I don't want to say afterthought, but a little afterthought. So um
I think it was one of the worst releases they've had in years.
it's not good looking, and the posing is bad, and like there's just a whole bunch of things, and I was like, oh wow, all right, well, so yeah, um, I don't know, I like previous to that they did another weird group for Warhammer Underpants there, um, and it was
Well, that's
called
the whole thing. They love doing the weird groups for the Warhammer Underworlds thing.
and but sometimes they
That's the
come up
delivery method.
sometimes they come up with absolute bangers, like the
Oh,
Crimson
sure.
Court. Like Crimson Court's one of the best things they've done in a decade. I swear to
Yeah,
God.
yeah. The Velmorn one, the skeletons with pointy skeleton man, they were amazing.
No, no. Well, yeah, those guys are very good
I know
too. But
Crimson Court was the vampires. I'm saying the
yeah.
Velmorn, the Scions of Velmorn or whatever as
Yeah.
well. I'm
Yep.
giving a second example.
Yeah. And then recently there were those weird crones or whatever they were. They were like
Oh yeah, sure.
harpies.
The Daughters of Cain one. Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, well, anyway.
That's just it. It's a bit of give and take.
Yeah,
Sometimes
it
they're
is. It does
bangers,
seem to be.
sometimes they're not. But they take big swings, and so I respect them for that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But nonetheless.
For me, I've just been working on a big giant project. I'm still working on this thing. It's a big giant display project. It's multiple. It's called Snakeheart from Brom. It's like 2 big 75 millimeter figures, and
The lady and then the guy, and you're making the guy like an undead guy.
that's right. Yes. And making them, because she's so warm and alive and he's so dead and not, making them feel like they exist in the same universe when they're standing right next to each other is interesting as a
Yeah,
challenge.
I'll bet. Because you're probably not painting them obviously right next to each other.
No, like I have to pull them off separately.
Yeah.
So like you can, Adam will be able to see this. You all won't, but you can see how like she's on her little base right
Sure.
now and he's like
Yeah.
back on the display, and they got to stand next to each other and feel like they actually are existing in the same universe.
Mhm.
And so that's what I'm fighting with right now. But we're getting there. We're getting there.
That's good. All right. Well, so today's topic, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, on and off. Don't make game publishing your job. Now that probably sounds weird because we're this podcast is about how to get into indie game design.
That's right.
And you would think that living the dream would be to get up every morning and go to work becoming an indie game designer and or whatever and designing indie games. And I think that Vince and I are here to tell you that's not necessarily, that shouldn't be the dream. Maybe it doesn't happen to most people. probably.
Yeah, so let's talk about there's sort of two tracks here, right?
Mhm.
So if you want to be a game designer, there's a couple of ways you can go about it. But honestly, today, the way the world is, most are going to start in the same place. Like if your dream is to go, let's say, like we talked about Warhammer some, let's say you want to go work for Games Workshop and you want to write rules there. Okay.
Sure.
Like that could be a thing. Maybe you've loved Warhammer your whole life and you really think that, you want to go work in the studio. That's a perfectly valid dream. The reality is that the best way to do that is the same thing you would do if you were making your own games. And that's make games as a
Mhm.
side gig,
Mhm.
right? Because no matter what, even if you were one of the extremely lucky ones who built something that like you actually could make a living off of, which is, as you said, pretty rare,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, because it means you just have to have such like a combination of skills and rarity, like rarefied skills and luck to kind of hit and make that all happen.
Mhm.
Um, but even if you don't end up in that place, in both, I want to go work for a big company and I want to make my own games and be really successful someday. The reality is, starting by just making games and putting them out there as a side gig, right, is actually how you basically get to either of those places.
Yeah.
Because a lot like Games Workshop and every other big company absolutely looks at people who've published their own games and what they are. Like you're building your resume
Absolutely.
effectively.
It's a portfolio, really. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't walk into any company and say, "Hey, I want to design games because I think games are awesome." And they'll be like, "Well, what'd you design before?" And you're like, "Well, nothing." And maybe you went to school for it. I don't know if there is a school. I know there's a school for video game design. I don't know if there's a school for like tabletop war game design. Probably not. But let's say maybe there's a class somewhere you could take, and you're like, "Well, I finished this class. I got a B plus, or I got an A minus, or whatever." But if you haven't produced any games, I mean, first of all, if you went through that class, you would produce a game in that class. Like that's what you do in
Yeah.
education. Is
That's right.
you don't go to
You take
class.
runs at it.
Yeah, you don't go to school for photography without taking some pictures. I mean, these are things that you're going to have to do. But I would not tell you to try to go into school for game design. I don't even know that that's especially for tabletop wargaming design. I don't even know if that's a thing. Maybe it is. Let us know in the comments. But you're better off, honestly, just in many situations, really absorbing a lot of games. And like we've said a bunch of times before, you make a game and then you make another game and you make another game. And most of them are one pagers and you do all this kind of stuff. And, and you learn as you do it. That's really literally the only way
Right.
to do it.
Imagine you wanted to be like an animator for Disney
Hmm.
back in the day, like when they had, like hand drawn animation and stuff, right?
Sure.
Imagine you wanted to be an animator for Disney. You didn't just like that wasn't your first gig.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you had to animate a bunch of other stuff first, right? And then eventually you're like, oh, they see that like, oh, okay, they're really talented. Great. Let's go ahead and bring them on, right? It's the same way here or whatever,
Hmm.
pick whatever your big time is. You don't become an actor in like a blockbuster franchise as like, with a leading role when you've never acted at all before ever usually and stuff like that, right?
Right.
For
Exactly.
the most part. And in the same way, for the most part, it's very unlikely that your first game is just going to hit and become your whole lifestyle and like support you and you can quit your job and you're good to go. Yay, that's it.
Hmm.
Again, that does happen. Most of the other like smaller game studios where they have standalone games, they were started by one person or, two people or something like that, right? And
Hmm.
they did grow the company into something that became their job, right? The game or games, I should say.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, these companies do have multiple, but it wasn't how they started. They started it as a side gig, doing
Hmm.
it on this on just like they're still working their normal 9 to 5, whatever you want to say, and then they made games.
I mean, unless you've got a spouse that's got a hell of a job, or you've got some sort of rich uncle, that has left you some money or something like that, or whatever. Um, you know, there's the regular joke in tabletop gaming, which of course is how do you make a small fortune in tabletop gaming? And the answer is start with a large fortune. And
Right.
so, that's just something that you have to kind of take into consideration, especially if you're trying to go big right off the bat. Like there are companies that have done it to some degree, but they're usually backed by like a humongous amount of capital.
Absolutely. Like if you're,
Yeah.
the Gundam game that's coming out,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Like that's Bandai
Sure.
deciding to enter this space in a big way, right? And that's very different than like an indie person who wants to make their own little game
Right.
and is going to put something out in the world. The reality is, it's interesting, Adam. I think about like the sort of the ease of making games today. One of the bright sides we've talked about before in the show is it's so much easier today to make games. The
Absolutely.
downside is like a lot of IPs and stuff like that. The larger corporate world has realized that every IP is worth a ton of money,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Back in the 80s, you know, um, Kevin Simbiata, I don't know how you exactly say his name, but at any rate,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
he went and basically got,
Palladium?
yeah, Palladium Games. Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Made Rifts and Palladium Fantasy and a bunch of other things. But as well, he made like a Robotech game and a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. How did
Yeah.
he do that stuff? Well, he just went to them and got the license to make those games like super cheap.
Mhm.
Okay. Like he was just one person basically at that time. And IPs didn't have any value. Right. So he was just able to score it. People were like, okay, you want to make a game of our thing? Sure. Whatever. And they like sold it to him, the rights to it, like ungodly cheap because
Yeah.
before those things blew up,
Mhm.
right? He found those small IPs and was able to get them. It's really hard to do that these days. So you're usually talking about creating your own thing,
Right.
right?
Which is considerably cheaper. You don't have to pay yourself at all, really, and you probably won't. But, in the
That's right.
grand scheme of things is that, yeah, it is in every situation, I think, these days, better for you to try to come up with your own thing. Partially just morally, I think it's better than to do the whole thing where you're like, well, it's not Star Trek, but it's not Star Trek. It's like a
Yeah, yeah.
nudge and a wink kind of Star Trek. And you're like, no, no, no.
Yeah,
But on the other hand, also like again, like you said, you're not going to be able to get any IP worth its salt for even a reasonable amount of money at this point, and that's just the way it works.
in my mind, like one of the reasons to do this. Let me just start out. Like, let's lay this down, okay?
Hmm.
Because you're not going to make a lot of money. It's not going to replace your job. So by nature, at least, even if you're very successful, it would take a long time to reach that point, right?
Hmm.
Adam and I we have published 5 games and 2 zines so far,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So effectively, with each of those which had a game in them, so effectively 7 games out there. This is not Adam or I's only job. We both have other jobs,
Yeah,
plural.
exactly. Hmm.
And the reality is, it works well as a side gig for a couple of reasons. One, working on these games is something you can do in what I'll call like a staccato fashion pretty effectively.
Hmm.
So, what I mean by that is like if you have a couple hours a week to put into it irregularly, you can still be successful creating a game. Does that make sense? It's not the kind of thing you have to sit down and like consistently work on regularly. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, there's plenty of people out there who are daydreaming at work at their regular job and who are writing up stuff for, the game that they're doing on the
Yeah,
side and things like that. It happens
absolutely.
constantly every day.
And you can just kind of sketch those ideas down, going right back to what you talked about earlier. If you get an
Mhm.
idea, put it down in the phone immediately or on your
Mhm.
notepad or whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And 2, it's a really excellent creative outlet. Like, let's be honest, a lot of us don't have jobs that are necessarily, let's call it emotionally fulfilling.
Sure,
Okay.
exactly, yeah.
That we're drawing a lot of like positive psychological utility from
Mhm.
by completing it every day. Right. But creating something, especially something that's, a little hard, like it's not easy to write a whole game.
Right.
Okay. But it's also not the most impossible task. That's actually why I like it. It kind of hits this perfect sweet spot. Let me see if I can make this more clear for you, Adam. What I mean is like, okay, that which is too easily earned is too lightly esteemed. The
Mhm.
famous Thomas
Mhm.
Paine quote, right? Okay. Painting a single space marine. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Not a long task, not a hard task. You feel good at the end of it. You're like, yay, I did another Marine.
Sure.
But chances are you have to do like a lot of Marines to actually get like the full dopamine hit or
Or
whatever.
paint, like,
Right.
one and then win a Slayer sword with it, and that would
Sure.
be a
Yeah. If
different
you're doing
story,
that
yeah.
kind of thing,
Sure,
different,
yeah.
different amount of time spent. Yes,
Right.
absolutely. Okay. Like, okay, so that's one, right? That's on one end of the thing, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, building your own car from scratch, like a kit car,
Mhm.
all right? That's a thing you can do, or your own plane. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used to work with a guy who built his own plane. I know you did too, right? Like we
I used
both
to
worked with people who, yeah,
I worked at a company that was it was a not for profit for people who like to build their own airplanes. Like it was a membership organization,
right,
and that was the entire thing, really. Yeah,
right. Okay, that is very hard and takes quite a long time, and
yes,
also like it can be risky when it comes to airplanes and stuff like that, right? If you build it wrong, bad things happen.
hmm
Okay, so think of that like the two ends of the spectrum, right? Yeah. Building a game fits really nicely into this middle space where it's a very creative outlet. You have to like think a lot and solve a lot of little problems, right? And like it uses a lot of creative critical thinking, but it's not something that actually takes like a tremendous amount of time. Like you could do it in a couple weeks or a month or a couple months even if you've never done it before, right? As long as you're not trying to write like, again, don't write your magnum opus previous
right.
episode, right?
If you're doing like a two sides of a piece of paper type of game, you could do that
Yeah,
pretty quickly for sure. Even
absolutely. There
including
was
play testing and the whole deal.
yes, yes. Like there was a really fun I'm sorry I don't remember who it was. Who had the dwarven drinking game at TMX? Do you remember?
Soda.
There you go.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yes.
Called Dwarves and Drafts.
Yes. And it
Mhm.
was really fun. And like he brought up to me, I read over it. It's clearly something he's working on the side. It seemed like a really creative design. It was very fun. We talked about how he could improve it and stuff like that. And that's perfect, right? That whole game, he handed me the little packet. It was probably, I don't know, 10 pages,
Mhm.
12 pages, something like that.
Mhm.
Not a lot, but it was a coherent game and it seemed like a really fun little game to play, right?
Mhm.
It fits right in that sweet spot. You know what I'm saying? Of being like a challenge, but not like a this is my thing for the whole year or my life challenge.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Okay. So I think it's just like a really rewarding task that fits into the perfect sweet spot of effort versus reward. There you go.
It becomes like a puzzle, you know? If you're, like,
Yeah.
into puzzles, it's definitely gonna scratch that same type of itch, you know? Some people are not into puzzles. I'm not crazy into puzzles, like, my wife is much more into them, but I think that I'm more interested in being creative in that way, like, creative in, like, I am creating things. She
Yes.
My wife she likes to knit, but she's using other people's patterns. She likes to play music, but she's playing other people's music. She's always said she's not super interested in creating either of those things, but she likes to like it's almost like transformative creation to some degree.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean?
I get it.
And whereas I'm always I make a new video every week and I'm publishing games with you and I've published games in the past with my friend Peter. And so you have, it was always about like if I wasn't doing these things, I'd be doing something else where I would be making a thing, whether it was physical or electronic or something like that. It's a thing that you really kind of have to have sort of stuck in your head. And the best way to get it out is to get it out so people can look at it.
That's right. And so if you've got that creative drive, like if you think you've got something to say, if you want to make a game out there, if you've always had that instinct, this is really the way to go for it. You start with it as a side gig. You start small,
Mhm.
right? And honestly, doing a couple revs, like you could either make a couple games or you can just rev on one game for a little while. Like you can write it up simply, play test it, have some friends work with you, rev it out, right? Put a new
Mhm.
revision together and so on and so forth. Either way, you're going to learn a lot by just repeatedly doing that and growing through it. And again, that works perfect as like something you do on the side because you don't need to be focused on this as like your the sort of ultimate thing you're working at every day. It can just
Do
be
you,
kind of there in the background.
do you think it is better? Okay, so you kind of talked about like building the base of it and then adding to it.
Yeah.
Do you think it is better to build the base, publish that, put it up as a PDF on, Wargame Vault or itch.io or any one of those different places
Yeah.
so that people can look at it and then you start to add to it, whether it be modular additions Or, is it better to do it that way so it's separate, or is it better to just kind of keep adding to it until you get to a point where you finally decide, now I'll publish it? Because I got to say, in my mind, it almost seems like you would get more feedback and enjoyment from people hopefully enjoying your product and things like that from doing the here's a very simple thing. Maybe it's a pay what you want on My Mini Factory or whatever, or pay what you want. I don't know if they do pay what you want over on Itch, but you do something like that, get people looking at it maybe, and then start to do add-ons. Kind of like Wargame Vault. They don't, or sorry, not Wargame Vault. One page rules like Grimdark Future Firefight. They don't go, okay, well, here's the starter thing. And then here's another thing that we're going to put into another book. And here's another thing that we're going to put in another PDF or whatever. They basically make one PDF, but they're like, this is definitely the core. Learn this, play this, and then choose
Yeah.
which of these other things do you want to add to it later. Do you think it's better to build and build and build and then release? Or is it better to, start small and do that small core piece and then start adding pieces on later?
Okay, good question. Here's my answer. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right. Let me unpack what I mean there. Okay. Depends what your goals are. So if this is like your very first game, it's probably not very good. Like that's just reality of the thing.
Sure.
Right. So you might be better like doing a rev of it, doing some internal play testing, talking to friends, building it out, adding a little more meat on the bone and then going. Okay. Maybe doing that a couple times before you actually publish anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is that it's a real double-edged sword, because the dark side of that is it's real easy to get trapped up in the situation where you're like, well, okay, I'll add this and I'll add this and I'll add this and I'll add this. And then you just end up spoiling the broth or whatever because you put too much in the soup. Okay. So you have to there almost has to be some kind of set arbitrary point you lay out at the beginning of the process where you go, okay, I'm going to do 3 revs of this with add-ons. And once it gets to this point, I publish it out. You see what I'm saying? That's how you stop that from being like, I'm just going to keep revising this forever. And it becomes like the thing I've been working on for 10 years and never published.
That's kind of the thing that I'm concerned about for some folks, is that they will be like, well, if I just work on it for another 2 years, then it'll be perfect. No, it'll never be perfect. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's really the thing, is that I think especially with how easy it is to publish these days, I think there's some benefit to, I'm not saying publish every last little thought you have in your head or whatever, but I'm saying,
right.
Work on a thing for a while, play test it, bounce it around, and then maybe look at it. And maybe it's 25 pages and you put it up for pay what you want or something like that on Wargame Vault or whatever. You do that. And then if people start to respond to it, then maybe that's a thing that you make an add-on for.
Right.
I'm not saying it's a automatic expansion, but it's just like, here's some stuff I didn't do before, and now this is also available or whatever. And people can choose to use it or not. But if nobody responds to it, nobody downloads it, well, maybe you want to you can either still do that, add more things to it, or maybe you want to start in a different direction and see if there's something
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. You want to be able to get that feedback. And so sitting there and trying, eventually you're just going to hit a point of diminishing marginal utility, right? Steve Jobs famously said, winners ship.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the answer is you've got to actually put the thing out there and see does it? You want to work with it for some amount of time. That means marketing. That means talking about it. That means going on podcasts. Sure. That means pushing it out on social media, doing all those things. Don't give up if it's not successful day one. It's just not going to be, especially if you don't already have some kind of big presence, right?
Yeah.
But, there are plenty of people who have built small online followings being on social media with their games, and then they start to build it. And then if you get traction, then you can, as you just said, build on it, right? Or if it just doesn't take, you give yourself 3 to 6 months. If it just doesn't take, if you're not finding any traction, if you're not really getting any sales or people downloading it or playing it or giving you feedback or whatever your metric is, then you go, okay, that one wasn't the one. And you try again, right? And then you go in a new direction and you make another game. To me, one of the keys here is fast feedback, right? So when you're doing this, again, I think one of the reasons we're really saying this should be your side gig to start, don't quit your job and be like, oh, I'm going to make this game and that's going to be my life, is because you'll probably fail.
Sure.
That's just the real talk. Okay. Your first game will probably be a failure. it probably will not be successful. Like, yes, there have been a couple of people who have published their first games and had them be exceptionally good and take off. Chances are that's not you. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just probably not. Like, odds are,
Chances are it's
it,
also not their first game. It may be the first game they published.
sure,
You know
sure,
what I
sure.
mean? But
Yeah, you
that's the
don't see
thing.
like the whatever was going on underneath all the hundreds of
Exactly.
hours of training and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah, of
Right.
course.
Yeah.
But my point is that there's no shame in that. There's no that's just the expected outcome.
Hmm.
But you're so like you still have your job, you still have your thing. Maybe it's a little successful, maybe it's not. Maybe you get some feedback, right? But the point is that you're putting it out there. You're learning a lot about what it takes to write it, what the pitfalls were, and so on. And that's all stuff you can just do at night, on the weekends, that kind of thing. Extra to your job, right?
I think that it's far healthier to look at this game design as another hobby as opposed to trying to make it some sort of business. Like it's literally like I see people online, like on Blue Sky and stuff like that, who are like, "Yeah, I was, iterating a bunch over this weekend, and I changed this up, and I did this, and it's working a little better in playtesting and stuff like that." And they may never publish it.
Right.
They may, they'll see how it goes, but that's not really the goal. The goal for them is to just have a good time, like trying to solve this puzzle and everything like that. Like, obviously, everybody would like to probably at some point publish, and hopefully people will get it and go, "Hey, this is really cool, and I like it, and I like what you did here," that kind of thing. But that's not obviously something that we can guarantee, but you can guarantee I had a lot of fun trying to figure this out, or messing with it on, in my free time. And that's the
That's
hobby
right.
aspect of it.
Okay, we got to cover this because I think people are gonna ask us about this, right?
Sure.
Are we saying like, oh, if you want to do this, you got to get on your grind, right? Like you got to get that hustle culture
The
mentality.
side hustle, as it
Okay,
were.
you got to go kill yourself
Hmm.
because look, you and I both have a what I would call near obsessive work compulsion.
I was going to
Okay,
say weird relation with work, but yes, it
sure,
is. You're not wrong. Both of us, we meet every week. We've in the last since 2021, we've come out with basically five. I was going to say six games because I kind of consider the zines to be half games because they're smaller and
sure.
stuff like that. So it's five regular games, two half games. Boom, mathematically that's six games, and it's a lot. And not most people want to do that. A lot of people are like, but I want to watch, I don't know, YouTube or movies
Play
or
video
TV
games or
shows,
whatever.
play video
Like,
games, do your thing, and
here's a simple question, Adam. How many days a week do you work
on the game or in general.
in general on any of the various and sundry things we do?
Seven.
Correct.
Yeah.
7 is the answer.
Yeah, exactly. It is definitely, like I was saying before, there's just there's no vacation. Even when I go
Right.
places, like when I go to conventions, I'm generally there for some sort of
Yeah, we're
work,
there for
whether
work.
it's either for the
Yeah.
YouTube channel or I'm there with our Army Painter folks or I'm doing something like that. My wife and I went to Seattle in 2008. That was the last time we really did a vacation that had nothing to do with anything except for just seeing a
Sure. No,
city and
I get
whatnot.
that.
Yeah.
Like my wife and I are going away here in a couple weeks for like we go out into the this sort of bed and breakfast in the country. There's no internet. It's great. Um we're going out there. We go out there for like maybe a couple times a year. It's not that expensive, it's something you can just drive to.
Mhm.
And we go there for like 3-4 days. You know what I'm gonna do there? I'm gonna write.
Yeah,
I use it
exactly.
as an excuse to go out and write. Like I'm going to do a ton of work on the game,
Mhm, mhm,
right?
mhm.
Last time we went out there, I did a ton of work on the art of book, right? Now, like I
Sure.
spend time with her,
Oh, yeah.
like we do stuff, we go out, we go see things, but then like every night I'm spending like 4, 6, 7 hours writing, right?
And she's probably, like,
Um,
reading and doing stuff
yeah,
because
she
she
just
wants it to
reads
be
or
and it's
or whatever.
it's nice to be
Exactly.
able to get away and just focus on a thing you wanna focus on. It's just that
Correct.
generally between you and I, the thing you wanna focus on is yeah, there's time I gotta be honest, I have a hard time sometimes calling it work, like, specifically the game design stuff because it's enjoyable and it's you're steering your own boat, you're your own boss, all those kind of fun
Yes.
things. It's not like, "Oh god, I gotta create another game to otherwise the boss is gonna" No, we're doing this because we enjoy it and because we can, and there's that, and that's a thing that you should also take into consideration And if you're like, my goal is to publish this in 2 years, that's awesome. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's
Set that. That's what I'm
totally
saying. If you don't want to be like Adam and I,
yeah, yeah.
not sleep, skipping sleep, doing all this stuff, you've already got your main job. You probably have like, kids, a partner,
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
friendships, relationships, other things you enjoy, other hobbies, whatever. Totally cool. Set a reasonable amount of time. Like I said at the beginning, I think that the reason game design works so well as a side gig is it's one of those things you can just kind of slot in.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you got a couple hours? Cool. Work on something. You're just
Mhm.
kind of turning in the back of your head while you're showering, mowing the lawn, doing whatever. You get some new ideas and then boom, you go from there. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I again, I maybe even calling it a side gig is maybe more aspirational than some folks might want to even look at it. Again,
Right.
it's also a great hobby that maybe
Yes.
you could make some money on potentially down the road, maybe.
I think
Or
that's
just
right.
even like it's a great hobby that eventually someone might check out and be like bump into at a convention or something or whatever and be like, "Oh, I really enjoyed that. Me and my friends, we played that like 4 times. It was pretty cool." You're like, "Nice." You know what I mean? Like that's
Exactly.
we love to hear when people tell us about like things that they've done and like, with the game like there was when we launched Rain in Hell, there was a person who made their own like boxed game version of Rain in Hell. You remember that?
I do.
It
It's cool
yeah.
as.
Yeah, it was like it made it like a board game, and you open it up and it was like laser cut foam and stuff, and it had all their different like both of their cabals in there, and it had their dice in there, and it had like a space for the book and all that kind of stuff. And it's amazing when people do things like that, and it's really super cool. And that's in many situations, that's like the best thing that you can hope for. Yes, I mean, sure, some people bought it, and that's cool. That you go click, click, and click there, done. But a person who sits down and takes the time to create like a thing to carry. That's the thing that's also awesome about miniature gaming in general and writing games for miniatures is that if you've got like once you start doing this, maybe you have some sort of Discord or whatever, people are going to start to share their creations with you, like what they've
That's
done
right.
to make models and stuff like that for your miniature agnostic game. Let's say if you go down that road, we've seen so many different crazy takes on different like ideas from our games that have been so cool to see. And that's really like an amazing kind of feedback on the hobby that you can't usually get. And again, having people buy stuff, that's also really cool. Turns out we live in capitalism, so you gotta I don't know, keep yourself
We
fed
live
and
in a
everything.
society, Adam.
Exactly, it's true. But really the thing is that you want to get the enjoyment out of it yourself first, and then you also want other people to hopefully enjoy it as well.
Yeah. Let me talk about one of the other advantages here, real quick,
Mhm.
which is when you want to become a better miniature painter, you generally have to do things that you might not necessarily otherwise do. What I mean is like, if you weren't into miniature painting, right, or whatever,
Mhm.
you probably aren't like watching videos about how to improve at miniature painting, right? You know what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
maybe
Yeah.
you do, I don't know, but that's probably not a thing. Whereas, like, if you want to get better at game design and you're a gamer, you're already doing it. You're doing the thing. What I mean by that is one of the best things you can do to get better at game design is play more games,
Mhm.
play more and different games, and then just critically think about them, right? So when you played that game, you go and you play Trench Crusade for the first time. You go and you play 1490 Doom for the first time, right? We had those guys on. That was a great
Mhm.
episode, all that kind of stuff. So when you do those things after you play the game or as you're reading the game or whatever, stop and think, okay, if you think like, oh, I liked that or I didn't like that. Okay, why? Why didn't you like that? What
Mhm.
about it didn't you like? What part of the experience was good? Now, I don't mean like the specific rule necessarily. I mean the broader experience, although maybe sometimes that's emerged in the rule. So, like, you're like, oh, I really like how the tempo of this game feels. I really like the way the activation system in this game works. I really like the
Mhm.
way the weapons in this game feel, or the the campaign system plays, or whatever, right? And if you can kind of build up that library of like, wait, why do I like it though? What makes it good?
Yeah.
Okay. When you start thinking in that, it's like being able to understand and disassemble parts of your car to then rebuild it, right? Because you know how the engine works or you know how the stuff works, like being a mechanic. It's the same deal here. When you can sort of disassemble why the rules engine works, you can then put it back together in new and interesting ways when it comes to your own game.
I think, well, I mean, it kind of goes back to miniature painting as well. If you just want to paint a bunch of miniatures and, to get your armies done and all that kind of stuff, as you paint more and more miniatures, you get better at painting. Maybe you get a little bit better. Sometimes you get better, then hit a plateau, and then you start getting faster. There's all kinds of things like that.
Right.
But if you want to get better as a display painter or a competitive painter, someone who enters a lot of, painting competitions, then you start painting things not to get them done, but to practice, right? Like
Right. That's right.
you're like, I need to get better at two brush wet blending. I need to get better at figuring out my volumetrics. I need to get, and so you're not sitting down to paint because you're like, well, I got some more guys to paint. For most people, that's good enough. I've got, as I painted, 30 guys over the last 6 months, I think that the 30th guy is considerably better than the first guy.
Right.
But when you're getting to that level, you're like looking at it and you're trying to do the figuring, and it's like looking at other games and saying, I like this, but why do I like it? What makes it something that makes it different from other games? And you get a little bit more academic about it. And I think that it's still not wasted to just enjoy a bunch of different games, obviously. But when you
No, that's just it. That's my point. You're
Yeah.
doing the thing you wanted to do anyways, play these fun games.
Right.
You're just also learning how to be a better designer, right?
If
Because
you're
if
paying
you take
enough
the
attention.
extra step. Yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah. I agree.
I had a teacher who was fond of saying, "Don't hear what I'm saying, listen to what I'm saying." Right?
Oh, sure.
Like, who cut that delta, and like, whatever. It's a stupid connotation because you can say it both directions. Don't just listen to me, hear what I'm saying. Like, it works both ways. But the point they were trying to get across was, don't just be a sponge or whatever, like a rock that the waves wash over, right? Actually absorb it. I guess that is a sponge. Whatever, you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Deconstruct and critically think about it.
I had a drawing teacher that would explain to you, basically they would tell you, you have to see, not just look. You know what I mean?
There you
when
go. Sure.
When you're trying to
sure.
figure out how to draw this thing, don't just draw it because you think you know what an orange looks like, in a like a little still life or whatever. You actually have to look at it, but you actually have to see it, because then you can figure out the way to put it on the paper, as opposed to just like looking at it and going, it's an orange, and you draw an orange. And then that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're actually supposed to be translating and blah, blah. So yeah, it's the same type of thing. As you just keep, looking at games, once you start seeing games, then that does in almost every situation, it helps you to better create them.
Right. And that's why I'm also a fan of this, like, as a side gig where you're going through multiple revs, because I think it's sorry, not multiple revs, multiple games. I apologize.
Mhm.
Or revisions, but you can keep it simple. But I prefer the multi-games path. The reason for that is then it keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for, like, if it's your side pursuit, you want it to remain fresh and fun and novel and interesting, so your brain keeps turning over stuff, right? And if you're doing a bunch of different games, like if you're kind of, trying to design something, putting it together, keeping it short and simple, doing like 8, 10, 12, 20 page games, something like that. It's pretty short, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're doing that again and again and again over time. Again, you can just set like whatever's reasonable in your schedule. If you got an hour a week to work, that's fine. If you got 6 hours a week to work, that's fine. Like, both could be perfectly good. Just set your goals accordingly. But when you then work over those multiple revs, it just stays interesting, and it lets you build up more of that resume we talked about earlier.
Absolutely.
Right? So if your goal is being mega successful, okay, that's fine. Then doing a lot of different games where you have different puzzles to solve in each game will make you a better game designer. If your goal is going and working for some big company, having a big resume full of a lot of different and creative games will be a better resume, right?
You don't want to skip leg day.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like if you're just doing the one thing, you've decided this is the game I'm going to hitch my wagon to, and I'm going to keep working on it for the next 6 years, and I'm going to maybe make expansions. But what about other types of games? What about other things? If you just show I've been just focused on this one thing, especially if you're trying to get a job with somebody else or even get into a group of other people, I've had this one thing that I've not yet quite published because I've been doing it for this long and it's just not quite there yet. But if you're like, I made this game and this game and this game and this game, and nobody's maybe necessarily heard of them or whatever, but if you're interested, I can send you copies so you can take a look at them or whatever. that's going to be a lot more impressive to people. And you're right, it also keeps it fresh with you, and it also stretches different parts of your brain muscles to make different things happen, and all that kind of stuff. I think that the other trick that people really need to understand as well is that you need to understand that there can be diminishing returns. You can get yourself into a situation where you're putting more into it than you're getting out of it.
I
Like,
mean, that's very likely. What I mean
yeah,
is, at the beginning, we do want to be clear with people. It's cool. You can make some money doing this. It won't
sure.
be like an incredible amount of money, but you can make some money, which is cool. It turns your time that you weren't making money into time you are making money. So that's nice.
Well, I'm
But
talking about you put more into it than you get out of.
the hours are going to be
Well, but
negative.
I'm talking about like the actual, like, you may not actually find you that you love it as much as you think. If you've just
Ah,
decided to go completely, this is hobby, I do this because I love
yeah,
puzzles,
yeah,
or I
yeah.
love what, and you put tons and tons and tons of work into it, you may find at some point that you burn yourself out, even though this
No,
is,
this is such a good point.
you
Yes.
know and so in that situation you have to kind of look at it and go, all right, well, maybe I need to sit back and take a break, maybe I need to absorb different types of media, maybe I've got to let this sit and kind of percolate for a while, and I'll come back in 2 months and then we'll see what happens. And maybe I've got a note file on my phone that's got like three different little things that I had ideas for while I was sitting in the, whatever, on the bus or whatever. And but I'm not going to like work on it. I'm going to let myself rest for a while, and then I'll come back and start with those things and see what I can do with them. The diminishing returns on that is important beyond the money thing, just the burning yourself out thing.
That is such a good point. I think that is such a good point. Okay, because it's easy to sit there in the abstract and say, I want to be a game designer. I want to go work for this big company, or I want to have my own successful company doing game
Mhm.
design, or whatever your sort of end goal is. And then you could do the thing and figure out that actually you kind of hate it, right? Because it's just a
Sure.
lot of because the difference between the reality where the rubber met the road and like all of the logistics and nonsense and stuff that you and I have to deal with,
Mhm.
right? Could just be like, well, actually, I don't enjoy any of this at all.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Like
absolutely.
what I like doing is just making little fun, simple games and putting them out there, I guess, as like as a complete and total lark or whatever, because it's just something fun for me to do.
It's
That
a creative outlet
if
as
you
an art
overinvest,
project.
yeah, exactly. If you
Yeah.
overinvest, suddenly you're like, it's the difference between you liking painting and becoming a commission painter,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah, I have people
Okay.
ask me all the time. They're like, "Hey, so do you do commission work and stuff?" Like, they'll see me on Twitch or whatever, be like, "Oh god, no. Oh, no.
Right.
No, I don't. No. No, thank you."
Because I am not interested in making that my life or even a
Mhm.
side job, right?
Yeah.
But there are some people who are, and they like it. They get into it, and they love doing it, and they're able
Yeah.
to make money doing it. That's great. So, like being able to figure out if you're the person who's going to enjoy this, you need to run it as a side gig first to get your toes in that water. You don't want to just cannonball into the deep end of the pool and then find
No.
out that like, oh, that water's freezing and you hate it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that it's very important for people to know themselves, obviously, like, self-awareness is super important, and I think that if you're, like, thinking about making games and you think about it a lot and you just it's a thing to try, and you may be thinking about it a lot because it's a thing that you love, and you
Yep.
maybe don't even realize it yet. On the other hand, you might just think it's a really super cool idea and then find out that actually I don't like it. I don't like this part. I don't like that part. I don't like this, whatever. And as we've said also a bunch of times, if you can work together with people, whether it's a partner, whether it's multiple folks, whatever, then in those situations, you know, then person X can pick up this thing because they like that part better. Person Y in that group can do the other thing because they like that better. And you're kind of like, delegating
Always get a
information.
partner or somebody who's going to go
Yeah.
along on the journey with you if you want
I
to
mean,
actually do it. It could be both of your side gigs together.
sure. And admittedly, you can also do it by yourself. You can. But you better like doing all of the parts, you know.
Right.
Or you better have deep pockets so that you can pay people to do the layout and pay people, or whatever the deal might be.
Yep.
Um
Either your
and
time or your money. Or
yeah,
both must go, you
yeah,
know.
no, it's the way it works. But if you just want to create stuff and then mess around with it and have fun, make these little one pagers and put them out there for people to hopefully pick up and enjoy and maybe do something in their lives with it, that's also a lot of fun too. So all told, don't make game publishing your job. I mean, honestly, unless you're working for some other big company and you're doing it already and stuff like that, then keep doing that.
Right.
But
Don't
otherwise,
start by making game
yeah,
publishing your job, right? Like
no,
it might eventually be if you get
sure,
into it and you find you like it and
absolutely,
you're able to build the success and the chops and the skills and so on, then yes, it might be. And great if that's the end of the road. But otherwise, start with it as a side gig, make some games, learn a lot,
mm,
have fun, create something, and yeah, they go from there.
yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for checking out this episode of the SNARLcast. We hope we were able to teach you something. If you've got suggestions for future topics, hit us up in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or shoot us an email through the website, or all kinds of different things. You can check out our website at www.snarlingbadger.com/snarlcast, for more information and for episodes and all that kind of stuff. You can also follow us on your podcast software of choice. I think we're on nearly everything. Leave a review if you get the chance, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, everybody.